Preston Smiles, I am so excited that you're here. I first originally met you in Diana Castle's acting class, and I was immediately drawn to you. Yes. So, backstory, if you don't know, Preston was an amazing actor and artist. And I mean, you still are an amazing artist, and you're constantly creating and with what you're doing right now. But I was immediately drawn to you. I just remember the moment. I just remember just coming and being just, oh my God, and just wanting to like partner up and wanting to just be in your sphere. You were just so charismatic, but you sparkled. It was just sort of like light emanated. And I was just immediately like, hey, I was like, I love you. You're amazing. And now you have turned your life. So then you quit the business. And I want to hear about the story of why and what happened. And now you're helping people transform their lives to spiritual millionaires on every level. So it's not just being like having, money or just, because you can, I know from my own personal life when I've had success, that doesn't necessarily translate in all aspects of your life. And you can end up feeling really empty, like being like, I can't believe like this was like, I climbed this entire mountain. What was all this for? So walk me through why you quit acting and why you've been on this journey. And it's been such a powerful, just watching your videos and hearing from you. You're always an inspiration to me. I'm so proud of you. It's amazing.
So much. That means a lot. And yeah, it is cool. I love having these sort of blasts from the past moments with people. Because I've lived so many different lives, and the LA actor one was such a beautiful time and interesting time for me. And yeah, I'm just really grateful and happy for you. I'm going to go into my story and all that stuff, but happy for you as well, because there are people that you meet along your journey that just have the thing. And, it was sort of instantly known. It's like, oh, she's a superstar, right? And like,
I felt the same way about you.
Exactly. I think when two people see that within each other, it's like, oh, yes, yes, yes. And you nerd out and you have your moment. And for both of us to go off and into our worlds and lives to find our way back to a moment like this, where we get to serve and talk about, what it means to be great. And I'll start with saying that one of the principles that I teach is elevation requires separation. And I had many moments during that journey where I realized that there was something calling me, and it didn't match what I thought I was supposed to be doing. And so for a long time, I just held on to the side. And recently, I went to Hawaii with my wife, and we were laying by the pool, and this Asian couple came down with their two little girls. And the two little girls ran and jumped in the pool. And then the dad sort of got in haphazardly, and then the mom started to come in. And the girls are swimming across the pool, and they're having so much fun, and the dad's splashing with them, and the mom's nervous and cold, and she's shivering, and she's holding on to the side of the pool. And it, for me, felt like, this is a metaphor for life, because you can't hold on to the side of the pool and swim. And the context of cold and scarce and lack and limitation dampens. It's like it throwing a wet cloth over this beautiful fire that wants to rage. And that's what was occurring for me back then, where I was trying to find a way to channel all the energy. And what I loved most about acting was the psychology part. What I loved most about that world, and I had come from an MFA in theater, so I had been doing Shakespeare festivals and all kinds of stuff. And then I moved to LA, and I'm trying to fit into this idea that wasn't necessarily for me fully. It was for me because it was a part of my journey. But I had a moment where I had a heart condition come up when I was 25, and I was so scared and I didn't want to die. So I made some pretty drastic changes. And within those drastic changes, and this is around when you met me. So let's say this happened at 25. We probably met at 27 for me. I'm
Yeah.
now 45, right? And so by 27, my cup is full, and I'm starting to really understand that a part of my duty on this planet is not just to wake myself up, but to turn around, right? Because I've gotten up to the top of this mountain and it feels really good and it's beautiful and it's exciting, but to turn around and help other people climb the mountains they want to climb. And so I'm still acting. I got modeling agencies. I got managers. I got all the things. I'm with Innovative. I'm with this group. I'm with Wilhelmina. I'm with all the things. And yet, I wasn't that interested in the acting part. I just wanted to make it so that I could help people. And so what I did essentially is cut out the middleman. And I had a moment where I realized that if I was going to actually make something of myself with this thing that felt like it was handwritten on my soul, that I was going to have to separate from a lot of things. So one by one, I got rid of all my agents, managers, all that stuff. I moved back in with my mom. I started at Smile Surf School and started teaching surf lessons because I needed money still while I was building this career. And I basically made a decision that I was going to go for it. And if I was going to fall, I was going to fall forward. If I was going to fail, I was going to fail on my terms. And so since then, at that time, I was making about $36,000 a year, but I was happy as hell, right? And I met the woman of my dreams a few years later, and we're dating, and I'm this broke, skinny kid living with his mom. But I had a big mission on my heart, and I remember 2013. This is the year I moved back in with my mom. I went from 36K to 150,000, and that was the
Wow.
most anyone in my family had ever made. Well, the beautiful part was the next year I went from 150 to 300,000. Then the next year I jumped from 300K to 600K. And then the next year I went from 600 to 1.2 million. And literally it's just been climbing ever since. And the money is a byproduct. It's a side effect, right? From operating from an attitude of gratitude and being a yes to my own internal yes, which I think is one of the most important pieces that any human could ever tap into, is what is your actual, genuine internal yes? What are you here for? And once you figure that out, are you willing to go to the ends of the earth to give that gift?
Wow.
That.
Wow. I'm currently doing that. I'm currently in the process of
Let's go.
So, yeah, for me, like I had signed a 4-picture deal, and that had been the first time, I mean, I want to talk about this because I know you said, fear can
Yes.
be used as a tool and you can alchemize things. And I had gone through a series. Oh man, there's so much to unpack in all this. Hold on, take you on the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I had this huge epiphany recently. I'm going to try to break this down, but I think for maybe a really long time, for maybe like 15 years, I had entered in relationships that were not healthy. But I had to learn those lessons, and you don't know what you don't know, right? And God had said, I'm very connected to God, and God kind of really guides my path. And, and when I was younger and being on the mission of tennis, like it's unbelievably, like you can't even make this stuff up of what God would tell me what will happen before it'll happen. It doesn't even make any sense. Like for instance, like, oh, the fire, like there's a fire coming. You need to move. I'm like, I just moved in here. And God's like, well, I'm sorry, there's the fire, you need to move. And I didn't listen. Turns out this whole fire wipes out everything and I lose. That's a whole other, I'll get to that, but because it kind of ties into this story. But so this huge epiphany that I recently had, and I recently was listening to Theo and Abromeit podcast, and they were talking about, because literally that day I had this epiphany that this is always, my fate was always going to be my fate. Right, because of my family lineage, because my dad was in a constant, he was on a collective farm in Germany, but he saw people murdered. He was in World War II. It was war. So it was kind of like a concentration camp, but maybe like a better version of that, but still nonetheless, people were raped in front of him, murdered as a 7-year-old. So I think like he never wanted children because you have to relive your childhood. This was epiphany after he had died so long ago. Like, I only had this epiphany that, that when he was reliving his childhood, he was going to relive his childhood through my eyes. And I noticed when I turned 7 at that age, it was like suddenly there was I don't want, and so what I heard was he doesn't want me, but really what he was, I don't want this experience. I don't want to relive this. And he was from he was from the silent generation. So they didn't talk about things like and it would come out in the form of, having a manic episode when he would freak out. Like if his job was being threatened, that association of his livelihood and, his survival suddenly was like, it triggered this whole big thing. So when you have, and then my mother, on my mother's side, she had so many people die constantly. So there was abandonment. There was like these 2 trauma-filled people had met each other. And then I'm having to grapple with, like, my mother's first husband died when, she just had a kid, and then he died. And a month before her wedding, her father died. It was like so many people had died in the span of, like, her parents died within a few years, like her husband had died, and constantly people had died in her life. And I think that was, and so she never dealt with it. And then it just gets transferred to me. And so then I'm going like this, not understanding whatever this is of I'm not enough because, dad doesn't like me because I'm too much. I'm so much, which is, it's a gift in a way to have all this energy, because I do think that is life force, that is chi, and it allows you to do amazing things. But, when you're sent the message, did you take your medication today? Like, because they put me on ADD medication, which was like basically, which I believe is just you're not getting hugged enough by your parents kind of thing. I mean, that's a controversial take, but it is. It's just a mild form of trauma. And so they found that a study in France that when, they could heal people's like ADD just by like spending time with their kids. So when you have this lineage, I was, and God was guiding my path. And as I was walking on this path, I started to, my parents were very agnostic. They didn't believe in any of this. I took like meditation. I was a athlete. I was, top tennis player in the country as a junior. And so they would implement like meditation. This was like when I was 12. So I was meditating before this was like the whole thing that everyone used to do. So in that space, I would talk to God because my coach would be like, hey, I talked to God. So I would get all these downloads. And so God would guide me. And then everything that God would say, there's no way that I could know, like would happen. And it's there's so many examples to get into. We could maybe, that could be the podcast number 2 about the mystical, thing of how amazing God is. But when I would listen, my life would go totally right. And I, like, all these things would happen in my life, like everything that I wanted. It was amazing. And then God was like, don't do this. Like, don't enter into this, like, stay in school. Like, and it wasn't like, don't enter in this relationship. It was stay in school. It was don't quit for this music business. And the music business, we're finding all about that right now. What's going down? Holy shit. So I did reach a point in the music business where I had to stop because it was the only way that you were going to make it is if you slept your way to the top. Like that was just it. And so we're finding that out more and more that that's hugely the case. Maybe there's 1 or 2 people that don't have to do that, but it's a rare thing. And I just wasn't willing to pay that price. So I don't listen to God. I enter like, I'm like, I want to be a star, and, like I want to, whatever. I'm a 20-year-old. All these amazing things are happening to me. I don't listen. God's like, stay in school. I didn't. And then it set me on this path.
Yep.
And it was so traumatic. I mean, it was, write a book. It's like a Eugene O'Neill play when I told, and there's so many twists and turns to it. And it left me riddled with severe PTSD. And I've healed that since. I went to neurofeedback. I've done all the different modalities. And then I entered it like literally on the heels of getting out of this really crazy, chaotic relationship. I entered into another one, like back to back, And so what sort of happened in those, and it caused the trauma compounded.
Yes.
And then a fire happened. And then all these people like in my life died, like simultaneously, like it happened, boom, 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 like within months. Like I went through a second breakup. So as I was still dealing it, my point is, of this long-winded story, was I had gone through a point where I was like ready to end it all because I was like, I can't turn this Black Mirror episode off of like you're stuck in a theater and it just keeps replaying just trauma. Yep. And you can't get out of it. And I was like, this is not my baseline. This is not who I am. I know my baseline. I know who I was before all this happened.
Yes.
And a fire had taken away everything that I ever had, and because I didn't listen to God. And so God also was like, you need to move. And I didn't listen. And then the house, like literally right on time the night before, I knew that there was going to be a fire, which is wild because that was like God being like, hey, there's going to be a fire tomorrow. You should leave. So God was still. And so thankfully, like I woke up really early and, anyway, so a fire had happened. All these deaths had happened simultaneously. Uncle had been murdered. Aunt had died. Like within the span of 3 months, I went through a breakup, like all these things. And then like a year later, the fire happened and I couldn't book a job. And so I had to sit with myself, pick apart everything, look at everything. Like look at the times I was bullied as a kid, like that I, was so tough. I'm from Boston. We don't deal with that shit. And I started to just have it move through my body. I started to process the grief. I started to cry. I started to move through all of it. Literally, I was like, what is my relationship with men? Like, I need to go back as far as I can. I need to see like my early, relationships with like even just, when I was like 10 or 11 or how all those things and my relationship with my father and, because those are, and my mother and all those important relationships that really, cause you to, it helps you shape your viewpoint. And so I was shaking all these things of like, this isn't mine, this isn't mine, this isn't mine, this isn't mine, this isn't mine. And so, but for a really long time, I was so angry at myself for making those decisions, for not listening to God, because God had told me what was going to happen and what to do. And I'm so willful and stubborn and strong-willed. It's fucking annoying as all hell of like a Scorpio, a quintuplet Scorpio and 5 planets. So it's like the most stubborn and shamanic, you're like psychic and all these crazy things and prophetic. And that is the unfortunate flip side, the double-edged sword of just not listening to God. So, yes. And so I only had this epiphany where I could finally be able to forgive myself. And I had found so much forgiveness for everything that happened and all those people, like whatever, forgiveness for. I mean, I immediately forgave the guy who murdered my uncle. Like I could find forgiveness because I was like, oh man, I could see wrong place, wrong time. You were just looking to like maybe hit him in the head with a brick and hopefully that he would just get knocked out and you could steal some stuff and like survive. And so like, I'm pretty sure that was not the outcome that he was hoping for, to now be sitting in jail and to have ruined 2 lives, like 2 families,
Yeah.
And so, but it was really so much harder for me to forgive myself, because it's like, I should have known better. I should have made the better decision. And when I finally realized with this, I had this epiphany where I was like, what if I could do like an ayahuasca journey just in my mind by myself and kind of face all these things and go through everything? And what I concluded was that there was, because of the lineage, because we're talking generations deep, there were patterns set down for generations and generations. The grooves were so strong. There was
Correct.
no way I was going to escape that. I was always going to be in that relationship. I was always going to be in that next relationship. It was always what was going to happen. It was fate. And you only know what you don't know what you don't know. And so you have to learn those lessons until you have more awareness. And so the way that I learn, occasionally I might learn from other people, like I'll learn from you, but and it'll click, but it won't really sink in my body until I've learned the lesson myself. And so the fate of forgiving myself and moving forward of like, okay, well, now that I'm more awake in the world and now I can see it, I can move from this space now. Like I can choose, I don't have to choose these patterns. I don't have to choose any of this, but I think that was a huge epiphany because I would always go back to why, you kind of, especially if you're high in conscientiousness, you'll pick apart like, how did I fall in this ditch? How did I fall in this ditch? How did I fall in this ditch? And sort of like, it was dark. It was dark outside. There's no way for you to know. Like you couldn't see the ditch.
Exactly.
You didn't know. You weren't aware of it, So I think.
So let me tap on this for a moment and say, this is literally the work that I do with people. My wife and I both. We usually start our workshop with the statement, you can't intervene in a world you cannot see. And each and every one of us is a world. And the body remembers what the mind forgets. And most people attempt to change from a mindset perspective. But there are three centers of intelligence: mind, the heart, and the gut. And the body has its own intelligence, and it's like a living library. Or said differently, the body is like a giant bathtub. And inside of that bathtub is all of the traumas and shame and guilt and generational stuff from other people, 3 generations back. That's how far we go. All in that tub. And if you aren't giving the body the signal that it's safe again, if you aren't clearing the body of these traumas, this shame, this guilt, this stuff, then it starts to overflow and the body will break. It will start to break things. And because the universe, God, and the quantum field, in my opinion, is a neutral bystander. The universe and the quantum field just says yes. So if I'm moving in the world with my tub, also AKA my body, my overflowing with trauma and shame and guilt and other people's stuff, then I'm attracting from that space. And the quantum field is like electricity. Electricity never says no. It just says, do you have the infrastructure for what you're plugging up? And so our job in the manifestation process and in just life in general is to clean ourselves and clear as much as possible. So the bridge experience, which is a workshop I do with my wife, is literally, that is what we do. We intentionally put people in high stress situations, and then we show them how to recalibrate their bodies and their nervous systems so that they can clear and create spaciousness in their bathtub. So it's like pulling the plug. Life is always going to life. More water's coming in no matter what. But if you can pull that plug and clear and create spaciousness, and I say this often, I help people build a somatic body that can hold everything they say they want and then some. Because you can attract anything. The question is, can you hold it? Right? And for me, throughout my career, so all the years prior to me breaking the seal, even from a financial perspective, that was me clearing energetic space. I moved in with my mom so I could go do workshops. And I bought my way into people's spaces, and I got coaches and support, and I got pushed into stuff that then created spaciousness. And from that spaciousness, I then broke through this invisible ceiling of success. It wasn't about the money. It was about, was I worthy of success? And because my mom, her mom, and her mom were poor and grew up in the ghetto. My dad, his dad, and his dad were poor and grew up in the ghetto. That wasn't in my lineage. It wasn't in my blood yet, right? Now, to me, we serve a infinite intelligence, an infinite God that can do anything with anything.
Yeah.
But most people don't understand how to use these laws, right? Law of gravity says, if I drop this, it's going down no matter what. Whatever I put in it, if I let it go, it's going down. Now, we understand the law of gravity, but do we understand the law of circulation? Do we understand how the universe works? Because once you do, then you can use the laws to your favor. And that is literally what my book, Spiritual Millionaire, is about. It's what my programs are about. It's what everything I do is about, helping people create somatic spaciousness. And you said it. And I just want to big you up and like praise you, because you let yourself feel the grief. You let your body have the moment of feeling the pain of the 7-year-old, right? Because again, even from a scientific perspective, we don't get prefrontal cortex until about 12 years old. So you're operating from your reptilian brain a lot as a child. And children, up until I think it's about 10 to 12 months, are egocentric.
You're back.
And then
Weird.
even after that, egocentric meaning
you're good.
Anything that happens, they blame themselves.
Yeah, I think in terms of I've kind of forgiven myself for making those mistakes and realizing, like, I've alchemized when the fire happened. I sat with myself, took a time out, and then healed myself. I did so many modalities, but I couldn't stop my body from being in the fight or flight. So I found neurofeedback, and that changed everything for me. And that was the thing that I think really got me back to my baseline. And that's when I booked, King Richard with Will Smith. I booked like The Purge, like literally like after only a first few sessions, and I thought I was just going to quit the business. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to have to do something else, because this isn't working. And then everything, like I signed a 4-picture deal. It was $1 million. Like it was the most money I had ever seen. And now it's, but there's still those fine tuning of, it's recently I had this conversation with one of my best friends that there's this circuitry still like left that, my mother had passed away recently. And so I had mended that relationship and really healed it, because I had accepted her for exactly who she is, not expecting her to do anything. She's doing the biggest lesson of this recent also epiphany of forgiving myself and knowing that all these lessons of I was always going to be single at 41, like this is always what the pattern was. And it was just too much to try to overcome.
Yes.
And in that space, I realized I was trying my best. Like and then for everybody else, like my mother, my other family members, they were trying their best. Like even when it's the worst, you're like, because no one wants to, no one's like being like actively like, I'm going to do the worst job possible. They're like, this is my best.
Correct. That's exactly it.
And there's such grace in that. And then you're like, oh my God, you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. Because if you did, and this is always the conversation I have with one of my best friends, that it's like she has a very high bar for me, and I have a very high bar for myself. And when I fall short of that, which I do all the time, she has this awareness, and she always sees things 6 months before it happens. And I have to be like, I didn't see it. Like I don't know what I don't know. What am I not seeing? Can you explain to me? And she'll have to get annoyed, and she'll be like, ugh. I'm like, I don't know. Look, you clearly know, but look, I'm sorry. That's on you. You chose me as a friend. Yep. So this is what, so the little column A, column B. So there's a little bit of you in participating, but shout out to Christy. Love you so much. But she she's one of my she's my writing partner and business partner and best friend and ride or die. Yep. But sometimes I'll have to be like, okay, can you explain to me, what did you expect from me? Can you explain to me what I should have done? Can you explain to me how I should have, like how you would want me to show up in this way? And then we talk through it. And then I'm like, oh, and then I have more awareness. Yes. And I think like this whole breaking the matrix and, breaking this realm. We're here in this realm to experience consciousness and to experience, all these incredible highs and lows of these feelings, because we're here specifically to feel that. Otherwise, we would be in the other space having a ball and just being like, I'm floating in heaven, which I talk to dead people. That's a whole other thing. So they tell me messages, I know when they're going to die, and I'm like, oh, so-and-so is just passing through, and they asked me to help them. And then I'm like, hey, did your grandma just die? She's like, she died 2 hours ago. Wild shit.
Whoa.
So which makes me slightly kooky, but here we are,
Yeah, such is life, right? Here's the interesting thing. I would like to. I won't say challenge, but I think what I hear in some of your language that could be worth looking at is this. There's still some constructs that may not be serving you or anybody else. For instance, the 41 and single thing, right? What if you live to 191? Right? What if you live till 91? Then 41 means absolutely nothing, right? 41 and single is inside of a construct that women should be by this time. If I unhook from that thing, then it's no longer a thing, right? Like, you are obviously outwardly beautiful and inwardly beautiful, right? Like whatever God's, created us was like, boom, right? So you get
Thank you. I received that.
Yes, you get to ride that wave without this idea that there's something wrong with it at all. And it's the same thing across the board, even with, and forgive me, again, I'm not trying to coach here, but this is what I do every day.
Coach away. I love it. Please do it. Yes.
So you've used this word multiple times, mistakes, right? And to me, I don't necessarily believe in those at all.
I would agree. My higher self totally agrees with you too.
Yeah. Even the worst things that have happened to me, including sexual abuse and things like that as a child, I don't look at those and go, obviously my personality, from a personality perspective, I'd like them to be different, right? Because nobody wants to go through certain types of pain. Yeah. And yet I wouldn't be as dope as I am without those things. And how do I know? Because this is what is. And I never argue with what is. Right? When I try to get into God's business and reconfigure what is, as if there's something wrong, or even as if something in me is broken, there is not a broken piece in me. Right? I am simply a mirror and a reflection of the experiences of myself, the collective consciousness, my parents, their parents, and their parents, the church, and all of the environment that I grew up in, because our nervous systems and our psyches are formed between 0 and 7 years old.
Yeah.
So most people go to their death still inside of that worldview and that psyche. You and I have the great fortune of bringing enough awareness to our current lives where we get to experience something different.
Yeah.
And to me, when I think about my dad died in 2019. And my whole childhood, I was afraid he would overdose and die. And then 2019, my sort of, that became a reality at some level. And the interesting thing is I used to be mad at my dad for a long time. And then I started accepting him. And then I had a moment where I celebrated him. So I'm like, this dude didn't have a dad, right? So what he did was he said, okay, I didn't have a dad, so I'm going to take the fake baton that his dad didn't even show up for, and I'm going to show up for my kid, and I'm going to love him. I'm going to tell him I'm proud of him. I'm going to be battling my own demons. I'm going to be doing crack and selling drugs and prostitutes and X, Y, and Z and all the things. I'm going to battle my own stuff, but I'm going to be there for my son. I'm going to be the type of dad that's the football coach, the basketball coach. I'm going to drive him to school. That's what I got, right? So then that dude, battling his own demons, passes me the baton. Mm-hmm. And now I take it 100,000 yards further than him. But because of him, he ate that for me. He took that pain for me. He took that suffering for me and my sister. Now, what do you think I'm going to do with my 4 kids? Right? I'm passing them a whole nother lineage. And then they're going to take it beyond what I can. And so your mom, your dad, I love that you understand that your dad's trauma was entered your life. It
Yeah.
absolutely did. His shame,
Yeah.
his pain, his
Oh
suffering
God. Yeah.
was overlaid into you. And as a 5, 6, 7-year old little girl, right, you don't have reflective consciousness at that point. You don't have a fully developed prefrontal cortex. So you're going to blame all of that on yourself and have
That's
abandonment wounds.
that's
And
exactly what I did. That's exactly
correct.
what I did. Yeah.
And so uh, here's the thing that a lot of people get tripped up on in the manifestation world. We're always manifesting. There's no point when we aren't. And it's always exactly as our frequency is, because God doesn't speak English, it speaks frequency.
Yesterday I had a shitty day and I'm like, how did I attract this? It wasn't somebody else's fault. It was, what did I do to bring this in?
That, right? Or where was I not willing to go or see such that I think that this is a shitty day and not a shitty 4 hours, right? Like where, and this happens with me all the time, right? This morning, my kids went into a whole temper tantrum because last night we went to a pumpkin night thing and they had cotton candy, and every time they have candy they turn into devils, right? And so the next day they don't want to go to school, they don't want to put their seatbelt on, they're fighting over this.
Sugar's a drug. It's a hell of a drug.
It totally is.
It's the worst drug ever.
Oh
Worse than
God.
alcohol. You have the worst hangover when you quit sugar. It is 10 times worse than anything. Yep.
Facts.
Facts.
I see it in my kids. They're such pure beings, right? I have 4 kids under 6.
know,
And so
yeah.
we don't give them that type of stuff. Then they have it. And then they literally turn into like zombie killers. Yeah. It's like, what is this? But I forgot what my point was there. But I think that
We draw our experience. You
Yes.
talk about this a lot, that everything is a mirror. Like the partner you attract, what were you not looking at of like you've attracted this partner, and like
Yes.
going just listening again, it's just you're kind of like a tune up. Like listening to your videos are like, oh yeah, you forget things along the way, and then you get
Yes.
reminders. You know, you have to keep remembering the same, all these different things, because they're so important. And you know that everything's a mirror, that to manifest. And how do you deal with the fears when they come up? So it's like, I've manifested like a motherfucker in so many ways, but then I can go through my entire day and be in such a positive state and be like, you know, knowing I can be in flow because I'm conscious. When I go into unconscious land and I can kind of control my dreams, it's still a battle. I wake up like screaming. I wake up in
Yes.
panic attacks of like worrying about money. And I realize money is also a tie, a connection between me and my mother. Now that she's gone, it's like this, she left me a bit of money. And this is kind of what I figured out was, that was our way of connecting. So she would throw
Yes.
money at the problem. She would throw money at like, I can't, you know, she couldn't give intimacy. She was like always running around. And I realized I can see sometimes when I'm being my mom and running around and being crazy. Oh, I came in hot today, but you know, it's just, it's a kind of, you're like, whoa. I was like, yeah, I need to dial it back, don't I? Shit. Okay. He's so calm. All right. I'm going to take a minute. Look, I can read the room. I just kind of, you know, I might plow right
it's
through it, but
beautiful.
I see it, you know? So I have to, yeah, it's,
You said, how do you deal with the fear part?
how do you deal with the fear? Like when they come up at night, because it's so, in terms of manifestation, like it's so, like in manifesting, it's so hard.
Well, I think one of the biggest pieces that most of us never get taught is to extract ourselves from the idea that whatever it is we're trying to grasp and keep is actually the real source. So and what I mean by that is like most of us have the real wealth that we desire, and yet we veer off of it to try to go get these dollars or to try to secure something, but we already have it. And so for me, when it comes to this fear conversation, and I'll say this, I coach a lot of people, and one of the things they end up doing is they deify or they demonize. They either make the four-picture deal their God, or they make it their devil, right? They make the relationship their God. I need this guy. I have to have this guy. I have to have a baby. It has to, and they make it that, or they get it and then they clause in because they're afraid to lose it. But both ways, and then
you'll lose it. Yeah.
Yes. And then
because you're in lack. You're in the state of lack. Yep. You're in the state of lack.
So the real work is to operate from all needs met as much as humanly possible, because you can't have what you want, but you may experience what you have. That's literally how it works. You can't have what you want, because wanting denotes lack, limitation, and scarcity. But you can have what you're experiencing. Whatever I'm experiencing at any given moment, the universe, because it doesn't speak English, says, got it, I will match that. So for me, when fear thoughts come up, I meet them with compassion, and I give them a opportunity to express what they need, and then I show them the door. And I show them the door because I have so much evidence, and you do too, that would point to, on a day-to-day basis, the worst case scenario stuff that my mind does and what actually happens is not even close. And I have evidence for being knocked all the way down, right? Going back to your life, the fires, the relationships, you've been at rock bottom, and where are you at now?
Great. I'm doing a podcast talking to you. It's awesome.
Correct. You always get back up. You always find your way back. And you don't just find your way back, you find your way past what you thought was possible, right? You're using the pain as a catalyst to teach and support and help other people. What if this podcast becomes one of the biggest ones in the world? What if you make more money doing this than you ever could in acting?
That's hope.
Right? Like
that's the hope.
So we don't understand or know enough to decide whether something's good or bad, right or wrong, right? I get in the conversation. Is this useful? Is this fear useful?
Good news, bad news, we don't know. Good news, bad news, we don't know. That old, story about like,
Correct.
The horse being like taken out, like, oh, we found a horse. Like, oh my God, is this good news, bad news? We'll find out. We'll see. And then, the horse gets taken away. It's like, well, good, bad news, we'll find out. Like,
correct. Chinese farmer.
There we go. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's okay. So how do you meet those fears? So walk me through that process, because they can be debilitating, even if, because it's like I have a vision board. I've cleared out so much of my trauma and given myself so much forgiveness and, unconditional love and all the love that I, didn't get, that felt very conditional for myself. And so I'm constantly, treating, being less hard on myself, but like sometimes it's necessary to be like, okay, that was, learn that lesson, like, maybe don't say that. Maybe, don't, when I insert foot in mouth where I'm like, God's like, don't say it. I'm like, I'm going to say it. I'm like, God, you fucked around and you found out, Suze. And I'm like, damn it. I know. So I'm learning to be more obedient and listening to God, and really like obedience is, this is a wild horse, kind of being like, all right, I have to. Being obedient is definitely in this life a challenge. But how do you, like, if you're doing all the modalities? I went to Hoffman. I had a therapist for 10 years. I had a life coach with Tony Robbins. I had a relationship coach. I had, I did EMDR. I did neurofeedback, like all these different modalities to do everything I could to treat it as a full-time job. So, and yet there's still more. There's always more to like clear out.
Let me tell you why. It depends on where you do it from. So I'll give you an example. I can go, and I've seen this, and I've worked with people who do this. Yeah. There are people who have amazing bodies, and they go to the gym because they hate their body. They go to the gym because they're outrunning the bullies. the people who called them fat, the people who called them ugly. Now, outwardly, we go, oh my God, your body's amazing. But inwardly, where they're doing the workout from can only create more of where they're doing the workout from. So no matter how good their body is, they aren't actually as attractive as they think they are.
Invisible enemy, right? Or the invisible, right? Is that what you call it? The invisible enemy. Yes.
So I have friends who have private jets and all the things. Most of my friends are richer than me, but all of them will say, Preston is the richest person in the room. And it's because I get that I am living the dream right now. There is nothing more you can add. I love that fucking G-Wagon. And if it went away, fuck it, right? I got everything. I got everything now. There's nothing more that needs to be added that will make me feel more like a unique emanation of the Most High. God is doing his thing at me right now. And there's nothing more for me to chase. I will do it. I will climb the mountain for the sake of climbing the mountain. I will chop wood and carry water for the sake of chopping wood and carrying water, right? But it will not make or break me. And I think that most people are so entrenched in the idea that they need to make it. This was one of the things that I hated about the industry. And I hated it about myself because I went into those auditions going, pick me, pick me, pick me.
It's the worst. It's just replaying the old trauma already. It's like whatever, right? You're just playing the same script over and over. You're like, why? Yes. Which is why I'm creating my own lane because I'm like, fuck this noise.
That part. Right? It's just what I did, right? Fuck that. I'm not waiting for you guys to pick me.
No, exactly. Pick me. Exactly. You have to pick yourself first. Yes.
Facts, right?
Facts.
So that's beautiful in the macro, right? Can you do it in the micro on a day-to-day basis? Where because let me ask you this. Say there's a pretty attractive guy. You walk out of the studio, a pretty attractive guy walks up to you. You start talking, and then during the conversation, he starts getting needier and needier and needier. Do you find him more attractive or less attractive?
Yeah, every time it's repellent. It's not seductive.
Correct.
And I know for when I do it to myself, I'm like, I did it. Oh, I held. Like, yeah,
right,
100%. Right. I know that. I know
biggest work in the game is to get out of the neediness and to get into how can I infuse, right? There's two different ways to have this conversation. Extraction, I take from, or I infuse. When I'm infusing, I'm operating from abundance consciousness. So the game over and over and over again is how can I infuse this space with the gift that I am? I have thousands of trees out here and I plant rose bushes and all kinds of stuff. And every one of my rose bushes right outside, every one of them reaches towards the sun and shines and says, look at me, look at me, look at me. And I look at each one of those motherfuckers. I say, yes, you shine, bitch, you shine, right? They don't compete with each other. They just say, how can I gift the air right now? How can I make this house even prettier? And they just do their thing. And that to me, right, is some of the biggest work for all of us to operate from abundance now, not when I have this, when this is set up, when I finally get my partner, when I may buy the house, when I fuck all of that. I was rich before I ever had it in physicality. I was rich in consciousness. And that's the biggest work we all get to do across the board.
So, okay. But how do you, I think I've been able to, okay. I'm going to break this down for a hot second because there was, I had a whirlwind romance that was very intense, very, very powerful. And there was a moment where we're like, are we each other's person? Like it was literally there. It was like, there were so many things that lined up that was just like, there was too many coincidences that it was fate. We were supposed to definitely meet, met through a friend, like a friend weirdly, I had done like this exercise of self-love, of looking in the mirror and imagining like mirror work and imagining all my friends and all the people who love me, how they look at me when they love me, like when they're in love, like, and so I'm just looking in the mirror and I was full of love. Right. And then I remember being like, oh, that guy's really, really cute. And a friend was talking about this guy. And literally that next day, I shit you not, I'm thinking like, man, it'd be really great to go on a date with that guy. And that next day, a friend reaches out and was like, I think you and this guy need to meet. Yes. And I was like, what the fuck? So I was acting from that consciousness, which is why it was so easy to manifest on.
Yes.
And so I think what happened, because I had set boundaries and I said, hey, I don't want to enter into like a union with you, like have sex, because that's like a soul bond. That's like, I'm going to download all your trauma, and I'm also going to download like all your gifts and everything. Like, man, you pick up, like, I'm too sensitive. So, and it's like, it's such a real, it's an energy exchange. And people don't know what they're signing up for. They think sex is casual. It is not, it is, there's nothing casual about it. And I think he was more of that mindset, but I was very acting from a place of like, I'm high value woman. However, there was a moment when, I was like, and then he was like, be my girlfriend, ba, 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 like all this. So I'm like getting everything I want. And then I suddenly was like, finally, it's happening. I was like, like, and I started to cry because of whatever this need that I didn't get, that I think I'm going to heal and whatever. Yes. And so like there was, I think, my part in it of why it crumbled, instead of him being like, let's hold off on this because I know what this means for you. And so like, let's take a moment, because, and so I think he was kind of like, like, he's like, yeah, let's do this. And then I think he understood once that happened, it was real. And he has clearly, like, I know he has avoidant tendencies and a myriad of other things. But I think my part in that was I was whatever small, like even if it was a small percent, even though I knew, I was aware, I was going in, eyes wide open. But the way that my best friend Christy handles relationships, she's not attached. Because she was very like, that's why love came very easily to her. Cause she's like, I never want to get married. I never want this. Like, and he was like, I want it. Like her husband was like, within a year, like that, the first day they slept together and then lived happily ever. Like it was like one of those things. And because
you want it so bad.
I want it so bad. So
So
a little bit of that I think crept in. And as men sort of say, this is a pussy trap. So he felt probably the walls were closing in. And so I think there was, even if it was like a small amount of energy, he's also very sensitive. And so he could probably feel that, whatever that was. And he went, no, and then he did a myriad of things of self-destructing instead of talking about it, and did like a lot of like, let me try to pick a fight with you and make you the bad guy or whatever. And I was, and I was like, being like a ninja, being like, no, can we talk about it? There's no, like, we're not getting married. Can you stop freaking out? Like, can we just be in the moment? But then and that was a huge lesson for me to learn, to not be attached to it. And so, but as much as I feel like I've now in my life, I feel like I've removed so much of that. But now it moves form. So it moves now in the place of money. So now it's like, I've like removed it from my relationship with men, where I'm like, bitch, like, I don't have time for you. Like, get out of my way so I can find my husband. Like, I'm like just that anytime that we're not a vibrational, like if it's not Bill Hader coming at like with Ali Wong, you're my fucking dream girl, I'm sending you flowers all over the world. If it ain't that energy, I don't want it. Because I'm like, why am I going to soul bond with someone if it's not like that? Like you guys, it's like you and Alexi, like you guys you love her, you shower her, you honor her. Like it's so beautiful. How do you still move through those, like when it changes form to money? How do you, how do you still work through those fears? Because as much as I'll have an internal battle, I'll know everything that you're saying. I'll like try to do all those things. And yet it is a battle. It's a war that is trying to win to protect me. So what do you do?
Yes. You fact check, right? You fact check and you let your body feel it. So oftentimes the war is an irrational war, right? I'll work with people and they're like, I didn't get a client this month. And like, and I'm like, okay, so let's say you don't get a client. Then what? Well, then, I don't know. Like, I still pay my rent. Wait, say that again? Well, I still pay my rent. Okay, so let's go back, right? What was your mind telling you previous to that? And what it comes down to is people will collapse. Like, I didn't get a client, which means I didn't get money or the money I think I needed, to I will be living on the streets of Calcutta, starving to death in 4 months. And it's a lie. You know, I was working with somebody recently and she was having some money stuff come up. And I said, okay, let me just ask you a question and give me a ballpark. It's like, about how much money has been spent on rent or mortgage for you since you've been on this planet? And you could see the light bulb start to go on. She's like, I'm bad with money. I was like, oh, let's find out if you're bad with money, right? She's like, maybe $1 million spent on rent and mortgage in my 55 years. I'm like, exactly. So you're telling yourself a lie that you don't really understand. For fucking 55 years, you've had a roof over your head no matter what. You've always made a way. You've always found a way. You've always manifested a roof over your head. Now let's go to entertainment. About how much money do you think has been spent on Netflix, movies, concerts, fun shit, Tulum, $1 million. Okay, so remember, you're telling me you're bad with money. So let's go even further.
Oh my God.
About how much money has been spent on food, water, like eating, right? Now, we're going through this thing and the whole room is lighting up because everybody's understanding that the story she's telling herself versus the motherfucking facts don't even completely close to match up. And the problem is that whatever stories we tell ourselves with emotion is what we manifest. So she's believing a lie and not fact checking it enough to where it's creating something that she doesn't actually want. And so what you focus on expands. What we appreciate appreciates.
Right.
Our job is to notice the fear and say, no, thank you. I'm now going to put my focus. I'm going to redirect. I did transcendental meditation for a year straight, every single day, twice a day, nonstop. And that whole game was redirection. The ego mind will get tired. Do I still have intrusive thoughts? Yes.
All the time.
Yeah. Do I have them like I used to? No.
Yeah.
Because my ego mind, here's the thing. A big game that all of us get to work on, and you're really good at it, is discerning between the wounded ego trying to save face and keep us safe inside of a pattern and the God voice, the higher self. Right? Now, in your dreams and things like that, you're really good at going, okay, God, I got you. I see what's happening, X, Y, and Z. I'm really good in regular life. I can literally tap in and be like, okay, that's the part of me that's trying to keep me safe, that's still attached to the identity of the person who was in special education, who was X, Y, and Z, right? That's that guy talking. The higher self is saying, bitch, no, we move forward. So I listen to this one. Yeah. Discernment over and over and over again. This one gets tired. If I don't listen, nobody wants to be in a relationship with someone who just ignores them, right? And so my wounded ego goes, bitch, we cannot beat this dude. Like, we used to be able to. Now he's like Fort Knox, right? This dude, you cannot get in there. And when you do, he just like walks you back out.
That's okay. That's really helpful. So for me, it's like, I know there's people that just don't have awareness. Like when older me or younger me didn't have awareness. So unconscious like patterns were driving the bus, of family lineage and all these things. And so it led me to these decisions. So now I'm conscious, like constantly, and now I can hear the thoughts. I'm constantly like, every time, those fears of like, oh, I'm going to be homeless. Where am I going to get the money? And I know like when my mom died, I had so many downloads. One of the downloads, in this connection between that other realm, the more and more people die in my life, there's a byproduct of something really cool. So it's not, it's never all bad. There's always like this alchemical process, and there's more, you get to see more. You get to see beyond the veil even more. And so because I was very, very connected to my mom, and, she's one of my best friends, regardless, even though it was that relationship was challenging for a good portion, she kind of invites me into that realm, and I can get downloads more, which, that that realm is only speaking on frequency. They don't speak,
Yes.
when you said they don't speak English, and I literally went, oh my God, that's what I figured out. So
Yes.
right there with you, I was, when she died, I was like, they don't speak English. Oh my God. It's just a frequency. It's fear and love, fear and love.
Correct.
And like those are two vibrations. So if you're operating at a very intense aggression, like just fully like embodied fear, it like, man,
Yep.
that just punches you right in the face. And especially living in New York, I'm living in New York City, that what I love about it is it's a place of mirrors. So like if you're having a great day, it mirrors it back to you. The amount of like people who are like, you're awesome, I love your coat, you're so great, blah, blah, blah. I'm having a bad day, I don't look anyone in the eye. I'm like, oh my God, I know I'm gonna get pummeled, it's gonna happen, I'm gonna get punched in the face. So then I have to move through and be like, look, I'm having a tough day and my intrusive thoughts are running wild and I might hurt someone, like I might punch someone in the face, so please, like, so I'm just kind of like, just stay down, just don't, like, you got this. And so trying to like zen out. So it's like, but then, prefacing like, having full awareness, reading the room, and kind of like, so I mean, that's why I love New York, just because it's like you always know where you stand. You always know where you are in reality in that space, which is really great. So so you're just telling me that it's just basically what Joe Dispenza is talking about, that you're just training the monkey mind to constantly just be like, hey, you're cool. Thank you so much for being like, this is your old script. You're trying to like protect me. This is why you're there. But like, I got this.
It's two parts, and I got to go in a few minutes. That's part one. Part two is celebration. Because again, the body mind connection is threefold beings, right? Body, mind, and soul. The soul knows everything it needs to know. The soul is done. The soul is dope, right? It's the mind and the body that are trying to get on track with what the soul actually is and wants and desires and came here to bring forth. So our work is to give the body the signal, because the body will send signals they go back and forth between each other. So what I do with my clients is I have them do something called joy alarms, where they put 3 to 5 alarms in their phone every single day. And when the alarm goes off, they burst into spontaneous joy, right? Reasonless joy. Now, what that does on a biological level is it raises our vibration. And now what's happening is I'm now every day, 3 to 5 times a day, just boom, bursting up here, right? And then life happens, and I may do like that. Then the next alarm goes off, and I'm back, and I'm back, and I'm back. And now after a while, you no longer need the alarms because you've now changed your baseline from where you operate. This is nervous system work without having to go into inner child stuff. And so part one is, yes, I call it catch and release, right? You catch the intrusive thoughts, you hear them out for a second, and you release those motherfuckers, and you go back to what is true. Now, the next piece is filling up the body in such a way that you are so lit up from love, from joy, that you create a new baseline from where you live.
That is so beautiful. And you did that for a year with your inner child. You're like, I want to integrate play.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
So you would skateboard, you would.
Yes.
And so why, how did you just figure that out for yourself? Was that just something like I'm going to try an experiment and see if this works? Like, see if I integrate like all the parts of me back into myself.
Correct. That's exactly what it was. I didn't have a childhood where I like had an imagination and had fun like that. It was more like I wanted to be a gangster where I was playing sports, and I didn't have much play for a very long time in my life. I'd say from 13 to 26.
Wow.
I had zero play. I was very serious. And my thought was that I needed to save my family so my dad didn't overdose from drugs. I needed to save my mom so she wasn't so stressed out.
Wow.
And I needed to be the hero of the family. And so I was operating inside of the drama triangle, and it was killing me. My body was so heavy.
That's why your heart problems, it was connected.
Yes, it was all connected. And so I was so tense. And that's why I said the body's a living library. My body started going, all right, bitch, you're not listening. You are extremely stressed. You are holding thousands of years worth of trauma in your body. You have not processed the sexual abuse. You have not processed your dad going to jail. You have not processed any of the stuff that's happened to you, being bullied, any of it. It's all still in your body and you're not processing it. So we're going to break your heart, literally. And so, but then that became the thing, right? I'm a multimillionaire from that broken heart. That was the very thing that opened up the entire world for me. And now I go back and help people open theirs. It's like this beautiful cycle.
That's so incredible. And real quick, walk me through the spiritual millionaire. So break that down,
Yes.
what exactly that is, and your book.
Yes. So Spiritual Millionaire Academy is a place where I help people not just get more money, but live in such a way that whether money is there or not, they feel free and beautifully alive. There are hundreds of people in it right now. It's really cool and extremely affordable. And I wrote a book called Spiritual Millionaire, which has it is the laws that I've used to put myself in a position.
I'm so reading this book. I can't wait. I can't fucking wait. Let's go. I wanna sign up for your coaching.
Academy.
I absolutely count me in because it's like you are the walking embodiment of practicing what you preach. Like it's literally existing in your life on so many levels, just on every single level, which is, I've definitely achieved a lot. And when I achieved those things in my tennis career, you have this crash, right? You get everything you want. And then you're like, this is not like, and then, or I dated the people like who were posters on the wall, like as a kid. And you're like, oh my God. And then you're like, this is, But then you have, the fantasy and the nightmare. So it's like, if you don't integrate both of them of like understanding what you're asking for, then, those things sort of happen. So it's sort of like, I imagine that's exactly what it is, the full embodiment, where it's not just this one, you're a one trick pony and you have this success. And then you're sort of, it's like a lot of people in LA, it's like, I thought this thing, because everyone has these like wounded relationships, I think. And so they're looking to validate me. Like, am I important? Daddy, do you love me? Mommy, do you love me? Like, And so thinking this success, I turned myself into a superhero thinking, well, I'm going to be undeniable. I will turn myself into a superhero. Like I tried being the wild kid who always went to the principal's office to, well, that doesn't work, to, the superhero thing. And then but then it was about being a superhero. It wasn't about like me.
It's all externally sourced.
Yeah.
And my work is about being internally sourced in such a way that the external, whether you have it or not, you feel free and full. And so, and as a byproduct, you usually end up having it, because when you don't give a fuck and you don't need it, you become a magnet for it. So again, this is my big work. I have to go. I'm going to be coaching the Spiritual Millionaire crew.
You're amazing.
Right now.
Thank you so much, Preston. This is honestly, you've been incredible. This was like, and honestly, I really needed this conversation. It's a really beautiful conversation, and I'm literally going to start doing that of, acting in abundance and gratitude. And I constantly practice that all the time, but having a clock for that and literally like doing that, 3 to 5 times a day, it's honestly, you're a genius. That's genius. That is,
it works.
That's God level stuff. Like,
I promise you, come back. You'll see it works. I did it myself. That's how I know it works. I literally did it myself, and I've had hundreds of thousands of people do it. And everybody who does always comes back a year later, 6 months later, and they're like, oh my, like, I know. It's straight biology. It's straight science. If you do that over and over and over again, your body will have no other choice but to do it. It's just what it does. It'll have to look for it. And you just raise your baseline. And from there, the manifestation is completely different.
What a gift. You're a gift. You are an absolute gift.
Let's talk soon.
I would love that.
Definitely, if you're ever in Austin, hit me up. And regardless, I'll talk to you on Instagram and all the things.
For sure. Guys, check Preston Smiles out on Instagram. You can follow him and check out The Bridge and Spiritual Millionaire.
Yes.
I cannot wait to dive into more of this. I had just lists and lists of questions that I never got. I was like, I went through just everything knowing, I'm like, okay, I want to talk about this and this and this. And I was like, oh.
We can do it again.
We'll do it again. Preston, thank you so much. This is a joy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Bye. I'm Ron Burgundy. And if you like this episode, please comment, like, and subscribe to see more of our latest episodes. While I drink from my imaginary mug. No, it's a real mug, but imaginary drinking. Thank you. Stay classy, universe.
A whole nother level.